Weeks ago that Congress greenlighted the $700 billion bailout of the nation's failing financial firms. $700 billion. And now, 6 weeks later, Washington is trying to figure out what went wrong. Part B of that question posed today on Capitol Hill, as we will pose it to the president-elect each night until the inauguration. What do we do now? In our third story in the countdown, maybe this happened to occur because of the simple announcement in a city full of lobbyists that $700 billion was basically available for the taking, or that there were not enough strings attached to the handouts, or that no one was actually in charge. The House and Senate today deciding the matter urgent enough to address during this lame duck session, holding hearings to investigate where $290 billion pledged by Treasury Secretary Paulson and the Bush administration has gone and how it is being used wherever it is. The department's own Inspector General, who's in charge until the job of Special Inspector General can be filled, calling it a, quote, mess, adding, I don't think anyone understands right now how we're going to do proper oversight of this thing. Meanwhile, in opening remarks to representatives from the nation's biggest banks, Senator Chris Dodd of Connecticut emphatic about where the taxpayer billions should go and not go.
Hoarding capital and acquiring healthy banks are not, I repeat, not reasons why Congress authorized $700 billion in emergency funding. The core purpose of this law and the purpose of virtually every other action taken during this crisis is to get lenders back into the business of lending.
We're joined now by the former Secretary of Labor in the Clinton administration and the author of Supercapitalism, Robert Reich, also serving on President-elect Obama's economic transition team. Mr. Secretary, good evening. Thanks for your time.
Good evening, Keith.
Has this become an out-of-control fire hose spraying taxpayer money everywhere?
Well, it seems to be. It seems to be going every place except where there's a real fire. The real fire is on Main Street, not on Wall Street. You've got a lot of small businesses that still are not getting loans. You've got a lot of students that can't go to college because they can't get loans. You've got a lot of homeowners who are in danger of losing their homes or already lost their homes because they can't get refinancing.
What happened to that premise that the money was going to wind up helping, whether it was directly or indirectly, people being crushed by mortgages? It seems that the institutions that got the money decided, great, we have this money and we want to and intend to keep it.
Evidently, that is exactly what has happened. We don't know. I mean, this is the most obscure, opaque kind of a rescue that I think I ever remembered, with the largest amount of money at stake. I mean, a lot of the banks that are getting the money are declaring dividends for their shareholders. They are paying bonuses to their executives and deferred compensation to their executives. And they're talking about buying other banks and trying to get their share prices up. I mean, they seem to be forgetting that the major purpose of this entire bailout is to help Main Street and help the little guys.
So with the caveat that Senator Obama voted for this, what does President-elect Obama do now, and what should he be planning to do in January?
Well, he's not president yet, and let me just say that I'm one of his advisors, so I'm obviously not speaking for him. But you got to focus this thing on Main Street. You've got to make sure that the little guys are helped. You've got to make sure that there are conditions that are real conditions placed on these banks. Otherwise, you know, why should they not have gone under Chapter 11 bankruptcy reorganization? I mean, why shouldn't creditors and shareholders and executives taking big haircuts like everybody else?
Would this help? One of the proposals, obviously, that has been out there, and I'm not going to ask you to comment on whether or not the president-elect discussed this with the president, as has been widely reported, but one of the ideas was take what remains of this that has not yet been thrown out the back door and up for grabs and redirect this towards the auto industry. Is that a solution to getting out of the sudden, not the bailout, the problem the bailout was supposed to resolve, but the problems the bailout has caused? Well,
Keith, look, at whatever industry gets some help, there ought to be strings attached. I mean, auto industry, you've got 3 million people almost directly dependent on the auto industry for their paychecks, and about 20 million people indirectly. That's a lot of people, unlike Wall Street. Well, Wall Street has a lot of employees, too, but nothing like the automobile industry. But still, you know, the creditors of the auto industry and the executives in the auto industry and maybe even the unions ought to agree to some sacrifices along with taxpayer money, if taxpayer money is going to be put up, so that there's enough money there to restructure the automobile industry, make more competitive autos, have you know, autos that actually are fuel efficient for a change, and can grow and keep a lot of people employed.
Is this statement still as true as it seemed to be 6 weeks ago when this passed, that all this would have been worse if the bailout had not passed, or is the statement up for grabs right now?
Well, I think the statement really is up for grabs, Keith. I mean, consumers are the ones who are really hurting right now. I mean, not only are they not getting loans, but consumers are losing their jobs. Unemployment is skyrocketing. You know, if Main Street was not hurting before, Main Street is really hurting now. And without consumers with enough confidence and money in their pockets to go around and buy things, the rest of the economy is going to stop. It already has.
Robert Reich, the former Clinton Labor Secretary, the author of Supercapitalism, joining us tonight from Berkeley. Thank you for your time, sir. We appreciate it.
Thanks very much, Keith.
Biden meets Cheney. Neither vice president